Good. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our next episode of our 2Connect podcast. Again, my name is Paolo. I'm the program assistant for the 2Connect program. And today we are joined with a few of the mentors, both of the coaching program as well as the 2Excel program. And we're here to talk about housing. So if we could go around and introduce ourselves, our name, major, year, whatever you would like to share about yourself. And anyone can start.
Well, I'll go probably in a clockwise direction. My name is Daria. I am graduating this year with major in linguistics from your college, and I'm originally from Ukraine.
Hi everyone, I'm Destiny. I'm a third year Marshall student, and I'm majoring in political science and education studies, or a minor in education studies. And I was raised in LA, and my family lives in Fontana now.
Hi everyone, my name is Celeste. I'm a fourth year, I'm also graduating. My major is psychology. I'm minoring in education studies. And my hometown is Skyline, which is like next to Spring Valley in San Diego.
Hi everyone, my name is Diego. I'm a third year graduating junior. My major is international political science with a secondary track in economics. And my hometown, I'm originally from East LA.
Nice. So welcome everyone to our podcast today. I really thank you for making your time to talk to our students about housing. So I guess to give some background about why we chose to talk about housing this year or this time, a lot of students will be moving off campus. So it's kind of a tumultuous time about how to look for housing. So I guess we could open up with just you all sharing what your housing situation is like, if you're comfortable sharing that, as well as like what your process was like leading up to finding housing and stuff like that. So.
I can start. Okay, so I currently live off campus, and it's actually my first year moving off campus or living off campus. I was going to stay on campus actually, but because I had the 4-year contract, but I wanted to live with friends, and I was like, it's a good adulting opportunity. So it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but it worked out better because I had a fallout with my friends with the housing, so I had to find a way to like first find people that I wanted to live with, and then find a place that was affordable. So I ended up posting on my Facebook, like instead of going on the big one where it's like, oh, everyone's looking for people, I was like, oh gosh, no, like I don't want to just live with random people. So I posted on my friends page, and then I was like, hey, these are my characteristics, like I'm pretty quiet, I'm pretty clean, I'm looking for people with similar characteristics. And then a couple people did hit me up and were like, hey, are you still looking for people? And I was like, oh my gosh, community, But yeah, that's the way I found my housing this year. Last year, after my second, it doesn't matter because most people don't get guaranteed housing, right?
Yeah.
No, so yeah.
No.
At all?
Not anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's different. It's different now, and I think that's why a lot of second-year students might be like really scared about moving off campus and like stuff like that. So.
So for me, I had the 2-year guaranteed housing. So going into my third year, I didn't want to count on the school to potentially mess me up, so I decided to move off campus. So currently I live right next to the Mormon church. So the view from my window is the Mormon church. And I live in an apartment with 3 roommates. And my process was just not wanting to rely on the school and wanting that experience of being off campus.
Well, Daria here again. I'm similar situation as with Celeste. The first year I decided to leave on campus because, I could, first of all. And second of all, I realized that since I'm not familiar with a campus, it's very important to familiarize myself. So I'm not late to classes and so on because it's just so big. And then the second year came and I realized that I want to live with friends. And I was lucky to have a friend to live with, so not a good advice. I don't have a good advice for you guys, but definitely it's worth living for at least a year on campus just to have an experience because it's actually really, really nice. You can go to the beach. It's right there. So, yeah.
I have lived on campus for my 3 years of being a UCSD student. My first year I applied to be an RA, a resident assistant in Marshall College. And at first I was a little hesitant because I had 2 years guaranteed housing. So I was like, should I use that year as an RA or like wait till my third year? But I did it anyways. And I really enjoyed it. The way that I get paid as an RA is through housing and food, so that's covered and I don't have to worry much about it. And there are certain perks with living on campus, like being able to call maintenance whenever anything arises without a problem. Something I struggled with was, there were two things I struggled with. The first one, loneliness, because I was in a studio apartment basically. Depending on where you RA, your room is going to be different. So I was by myself all the time. So I had to adjust to going from a suite with 9 other people to living completely on my own, which there were times where I appreciated that and times where I didn't. And then the second thing is, not getting a break from things. So I work on campus, I go to school on campus, I live on campus, eat on campus, everything was on campus. So having to find a balance where I would like recharge in other parts of San Diego was really important. But I've just lived on campus this whole time. I'm like, there's no rush. I'm going to live off campus the rest of my life. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
No, I think that's what's for a lot of students, the convenience of living on campus, of like, you could wake up late to class and still make it on time and all that stuff. But at the same time, like having that balance of being where you go to work, where you go to school, but also it's where you sleep. Like I think that's something that a lot of students don't understand is like sometimes pretty stressful, So I think, would you have any advice for like those who are looking to like are unsure if they want to continue to try and stay on campus or go off campus? Would you say one is better than the other, or like what are your takes on that?
Well, I mean, both of them have a lot of pros and cons. Living off campus, especially here at UCSD, commuting is really hard.
Yes.
They're building like this trolley, but that's not going to be around for a few years. So commuting is really hard, but you save a lot of money. So
in what ways?
Well, the school charges a lot for the dining plan. That's like one of the biggest overcharges, and housing is just kind of generally expensive. So when you move off campus, you save a lot of money.
Yeah, convenience comes at the price.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
sometimes it is really worth it, especially if you have classes that are on opposite ends of the campus. And when there's like 8 p.m. concert in PC or something, you definitely think about whether or not to go if you're commuting. Like, for example, I'm taking a bus, and it's not always reliable. Sometimes it's late, there's traffic, and you can be late to class, and it doesn't look good. So that's a negative part. But I definitely agree with you on there's a balance. Sometimes you can get a really good deal off campus, and you can make more friends. You don't feel as isolated and locked in the campus. Because I also had a similar experience. I felt like this is my planet, and there's world outside. What? So discovery, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with because I used to think when people, when I lived on campus, they'd be like, yeah, living off is such a great experience. You're gonna grow so much, and like it's like, okay, but you're just saying that because you live off campus. Like I didn't really believe the hype until now that I live off campus. I agree. Like the only thing I don't like is transportation, and then that I feel like what I currently have, since I'm not like automatically paying like housing does. You automatically pay like $10,000. Now I'm actually like paying with my credit card or whatever. It feels like more, but I'm actually I'm saving a lot of money. And also with food, like I get to choose what kind of food I want to eat, and it's usually cheaper, even though the only thing around here that's like it's like Ralph's, Sprouts, and like kind of bougie places, but they're still pretty like cheaper compared to the dining halls. But yeah, I think it's a break from school. You have your own little space, and like transportation just needs to be better.
So that's something also that a lot of people don't know about is like transportation. So like what kinds of modes of transportations do you all know about that living off campus would be beneficial for the students to know, or anything like that? Or like any tips or advice?
My friend lives off campus right now, and the first thing they took into consideration was the bus route to come back to campus. Yeah. And they have a car, but they decided to save money and not pay for parking because that adds up. And the bus system has been helpful for them. And I know that when I was commuting in the summer, I was a much more responsible student because living on campus, I just roll out of bed and I'm like, okay, 15 minutes, I'll make it. But commuting, I had to plan really well ahead of time. So I would just take into consideration the buses, and if people want to walk or ride a bike, that's an option, but there's a lot of hills here, so being mindful of that.
Yeah, I have a car, and I paid for the parking pass. but the parking situation on campus is so bad. Even if you pay for it, you're not guaranteed a spot. Sometimes you do get parking and it's great and it's helpful, but most of the time you won't find one at a reasonable time. So I'll get to campus at 6 in the morning and there's Sunday parking, but if you get here 8 in the morning, good luck.
That's real.
And that's just the truth of like this campus. And they're building more parking or whatever, but it's going to take a few years. So in the past, it varies per quarter, but it's around like $200. But the school also has other programs. If you're going to be spending that kind of money anyways, you can buy Lyft credits. The school gives you a discount. And I think they give you Uber credits too. So you pay an amount and then it's a certain amount of rides. And that way you don't have to worry about parking and you can still get to class reasonably quick.
There's a cheaper version. You can drive to Old Town, and a lot of people do. They park there for free and then they jump on a bus 150, which is express bus. I'm taking it, and I even see some professors taking it. So you can also do your homework while you're on a bus. So that's another positive part, because I can catch up on my reading or read something I had to write before class. Oops, shouldn't say that. And you can actually meet people because a lot of students take this bus, and some classmates of yours, so you can even have a little chat and get your mind off a book, which is what we need sometimes here. And definitely consider public transportation, just like your friend's Destiny, because it's very, very helpful and cheap.
I actually take the bus. I take 2 buses, which is kind of a hassle. So sometimes, I don't think they're going to be able to do this in the future, but right now they're remodeling UTC, and I live, like my bus from my house goes to UTC, and then the transit center takes me here. So I've been parking at UTC. It's been free before this, but now they're going to start charging it. Yeah, so I'm taking full advantage. So today I parked there actually. But it does take a little longer, but when you think about it, like the parking situation, if you were to buy the pass, I remember when I used to have like the parking permit last year, and it was such a hassle. The only reason it was less time was because I lived on campus and I could like park it overnight. But otherwise, like, yeah, it's really, really hard to find parking. So the bus isn't that bad. It seems like it's a long time because you can't like jam out to your music like while you're driving and stuff. But I think it's less time or the same to take the bus.
Another resource is Trident Rides. So they offer rides to students that are on campus and want to go anywhere else on campus or off campus. I think it's a mile radius. So that's really helpful. And it starts once it gets dark or at 8 p.m. and then it continues throughout the night. So it's a safe alternative to using the bus or walking.
Yeah, there's also those orange bikes, the new thing that you can basically rent it, and you don't have to worry about where to park because it has GPS on it. So yeah, the orange bike, that's another version.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are changing. Like, I don't even know what's here anymore. But yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of these students are kind of just not knowing where to start. You know, housing is very like scary for some people. For some, it's their first time living completely independently, and then like even on campus, but now they have to do it off campus and dealing with bills and all these things. So I guess like, do you have any like words of advice for those who may be transitioning to off-campus life, and like what to anticipate, things you wish you knew about off-campus life and stuff like that?
And definitely start earlier, because as we just learned that the deadlines are more strict now. So start planning early, and then if you want to live with friends, make sure that you post on Facebook early, so then it reaches people.
I will say that I posted like a month before I got my apartment because of the fallout that I had. Like, it was a very last minute thing. I currently live at Crossroads, so they have a very competitive application process. Like, I called at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 10 it was gone. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't have anywhere to live. So like, it's okay if you also have last minute housing situations. That happens a lot actually, and you'll still find housing. Like, you're not going to be without housing. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but like most likely you won't be. But one piece of advice I would give is about meals, because I feel like it's very hard for me to be like consistently making food. And you know, like yesterday I had one meal until I got home because I was just like, dang it, I forgot my credit card, like, and I was like, this is not okay. So just making sure that you're like being very intentional about your meal prepping. I've had to learn. I realized I don't know how to cook a lot. Like I know how to make eggs and breakfast food, but like not dinner food. So I've been going online, calling my mom, asking like, how do you make this? How do you make that? But online is usually like an easier route. So that's just for cooking and stuff, since you won't have the dining plan anymore. Yeah.
Two things I wish I knew before I moved off campus was how important timing is, especially if you're going to live around here in La Jolla. When you're looking for housing, can generally change your price of rent by a couple $100s. And if you're looking at like trying to move in like right before the school year, it's really competitive. Prices are usually higher, and it just kind of generally sucks around La Jolla, around campus. It's not so bad off campus, farther away from campus, but yeah, the timing. So I moved in to start this summer, and to start this summer, it was pretty expensive. And if I would have waited like a month and a half, prices dropped like $200 in the same complex. So I wish I knew that, just like how important timing is. And the second thing, going off of what Celeste said, was planning your schedule becomes a lot more important. When you live on campus, when you have an hour gap, it's not that big of a deal. You can go home, you can do different things. But when you live off campus and you have classes and big gaps all day, you're going to be stuck on campus all day. You want to go home. You shouldn't. Sometimes you do. So you have to be a lot more picky with your classes.
Unless you are very motivated. I had to learn to be motivated when I have this break, like an hour or two, and I can't go back to my home. I go to the library and I force myself to at least start on that assignment, that you always put off till the next minute. So that could be a good thing when you have those gaps, or you can meet a friend that finally you're gonna get that lunch like you wanted a month ago. So it's all about planning, like we were talking about earlier. Planning is everything, and you learn to adult with all this planning, so that's a good thing.
I would suggest taking the time to reflect on what type of living situation you would want and what type of roommate you are, or like I would be, and just be transparent with the people that one would live with, because there are different schedules that people have, different interests. I'm someone who always has my music on. As soon as I wake up, I'm blasting it. So I'm happy I don't have neighbors, because I'm like, they would be mad at me. So just being very transparent and honest about what one would expect in the living situation, I think is important, because you're going to be with those people the whole year, kind of. So,
and that's what's cool too about living off campus, is you could sometimes be living with your friends that are in different colleges too, but then living with them might be something different than just like seeing them around, you know. So like really being, like you said, transparent about what your anticipation of each other and like what your expectations of like the housing situation is going to be like. So I guess like touching on what you had said about timing, is there like a suggested time you would say that students should start looking, or like or how they should start looking, or where they could start and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, it depends on the students' plans. If you want to stay all summer, there's different alternatives. You could sublease for if you want to stay only like a quarter or so. But like generally, if you want to like save the most money, it's like move in when most people aren't moving in. So that would be like in July, when it's in the middle of summer session, so people aren't immediately looking for housing. You can move in before the school year ends. For my personal experience, I moved in June 13th to my apartment, and the rent is like $2,600. And if I would have moved in May 8th, it would have been $2,100. So it really depends also the complex you're living in and the type of plans you want to have. If you want to work all summer, if you're going to do an internship or research project or that kind of stuff.
One thing I would say is like just in general the whole process, like, because I know when I was doing it, I was like, this is too adulty for me, like going into an office and like making like, oh, I have an appointment, but like I don't even know what to talk about. I don't even know what subleasing means, like just go and ask questions. Like it's okay to not know anything at all, because that's how I learned. Like I didn't call my mom because she was just going to be like, she's very skeptical, is that the word, about things. And like if I would have told her what I was paying, it's La Jolla, so she's like, what? No, like come live at home, Yeah. So I was just doing it all on my own. So it's okay to ask questions and like start from the beginning, or like ask. It's okay if you don't want to look like, oh, I don't know, or like because my thing was like, I don't want to look like I've never lived like in this fancy neighborhood. But no, I'm always like, look at this bougie place. Like we have a pool, like whatever. So it's okay to ask questions and like start from the first step, you know. But yeah, that's what I would say about the whole process.
Yeah, some of the apartments, they'll help you out. They take financial aid as like income, and that makes things a lot easier. And they work with students all the time. Students live there, and it makes the process a lot more streamlined. My apartment takes financial aid, so all I had to do was present my my award letter for financial aid, and that was pretty much it. With that, I got approved for the apartment.
I think that's interesting that you say that too, is because a lot of students are afraid, like, oh, I don't know if I'll have enough. But like when you get your financial aid disbursement, sometimes they'll take that as like your income, and then when you kind of pool together all of your your roommates and yourself, pool together your financial aid, it will add up to about like the rent that they're looking for and stuff like that. And if it doesn't, then sometimes they'll even ask for like a co-signer. So like if your parent's willing to co-sign and be like, if you default, then the parent will be liable to pay the rest of the rent. So there are different processes at like different places depending on whatever their policy is. I know Student Legal Services sometimes offers help reading your contracts before you sign it. So if you're the type that's very apprehensive to commit to something without reading the fine print, I know that they provide those services. So it's just important to be very well educated on what you're getting yourself into before you kind of just jump in and like, yeah.
Yeah, look what you're signing for, right?
Yeah, so if that's pretty much everything, is there any last closing thoughts that anyone has, or anything that they want to mention before we close out our podcast today?
Just one thing. I think roommates, if you're going to be living with roommates, if that's something for you, that's probably like the most important thing. If you can be living in a wonderful place, but if you have bad roommates, then you're not going to like it. And like Justine said earlier, you're going to be signing up for a year-long experience. So it's really important, and that's probably the hardest thing for students, and it's just finding who to live with, who's a good match, and being honest about it.
I recommend people from community. I feel like you will have less problems, like problematic wise, and there's like usually a common like respecting, like empathy, you know. So finding people from community, and make sure you have like that meeting in the beginning. Like even if it's like, oh, I don't want to seem like I'm super picky. Like I do not like sharing my dishes, and I was like, I don't want to sound like that person, but I do not like sharing my dishes. So we had to have that and other like things. Like be really open, like Destiny said, about who you are, and just lay it out from the beginning so they know.
Absolutely, because it can escalate into the problem. And if you're in the middle of your midterms or finals, and then you have piles of dirty dishes in the sink, right? And it's totally wrong, and you didn't agree on that, that can be a problem and can be time consuming. You can end up moving out, you can end up losing money. So very wise to see who you sign it up for with.
Yeah, and just to wrap up, there's pros and cons to wherever you live. If you're on campus, you're off campus. If you live far away from campus, if you want to experience different things, it just doesn't matter what other people do. What matters is what's best for you.
Okay. So that pretty much wraps up our discussion today. Again, I want to thank you all for being here. Really, I truly appreciate that we had mentors that came through to help share their experiences. I'm pretty sure it will help these students that are listening kind of get better understanding of what to anticipate. For a lot of them, like they don't know where to start, so I think this gives them a good idea of what to expect when they're going into this next process. So to close out, we do have some closing reminders. The next 2Connect workshop will be next Thursday, March 1st, and it's the What is Your Vision workshop led by Stephanie Wong. Also, the drop-in mentoring is accessible via the link bit.ly/2connect-drop-in. Again, make sure that you sign up for your drop-in mentoring at least 3 days prior, and you will be meeting with the 2Excel mentors in Oasis on the 3rd floor of Center Hall. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, like, comment, subscribe, go to 2connect.ucsd@gmail.com. And we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Yay!